Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning. It's a good afternoon to you all. You're welcome to today's webinar. So quickly, I'll just introduce why we are here today, since we already know why we are here. But today we are just going to look at crafting and winning statements of purpose. So just a little introduction about myself. So my name is Ruth, and I'm currently a graduate student at Grand Valley State University. I study communications, and my interest is in international, intercultural communication. I also look at emerging technology, students' experiences, and how they use tech to integrate into the US system. So that is basically what my interest lies in with regards to my research. So today we are going to look at crafting and winning SOP. I know with the form we had other options, but we want to focus on them one after the other. So we will focus on just the SOP today, and in the coming months we will look at other ones as well. So if even you sign up for maybe CV or cover letter, I encourage you to just stay with us. As I always say, anytime you learn something new, you upgrade yourself. So even if you sign up for CV and you are here today for the SOP, it still doesn't change anything. It's an opportunity for you to learn something new as well. So this is what we are going to cover today. I'll take you through why SOP matters, difference between SOP and personal statement, common mistakes to avoid, structure and key elements of an SOP, sample analysis practice. Then we will take some questions and answers for this part. Then Samara, my other team member, will come in to talk about Cloud 360 and how we can use Cloud 360, a feature in Cloud 360 to fine-tune our SOP. So that is what we are going to look at today. So quickly, let's move on to why SOP matters. Why is SOP important, even as students or anytime we are applying for any university or any educational level? Why you already always hear SOP all the time. So why does it really matter for us to have an SOP or write an SOP or anything like that? So the first thing is that it is a critical part of graduate applications. So when it comes to graduate applications or any other application that has to do with academia, or if you want to move on to another level, the admission teams look beyond numbers. I mean, if I look at your transcript, I can't tell your commitment, your purpose, or your interest by just looking at the numbers you have on your transcript, or maybe just looking at your CV. Sure, your CV points out your interest, but the SOP allows you to lay out your journey, your interests, your commitment, your passion more broadly than just what you have on your transcript or what you just have on your CV. So the SOP is your personal way of lying down or writing down, laying it clear to whoever is going to look at your documents that you are fit for this program or you are ready for this program. So it's a critical part of your graduate application because it tells your story. That is how you tell your journey, how you've come this far, what has led you to pursue this program, or what has led you to choose this particular school. So your SOP talks more about you beyond the numbers you have on your transcript. Yes, I know probably you have 3.6 or you have 2.5 or whatever GPA you have, which may be good or which is good, but it doesn't really tell your story as how the SOP will lay out your story, your journey, what you've done so far, and what you plan to do in the future. So it's a critical part of your graduate application. I mean, it's not the only thing that is required for graduate application, but it is one of the main things that schools look out for in order to make decisions whether someone qualifies to be part of their program or not. And also, it differentiates candidates beyond GPA, like I was just talking about. I mean, if we all probably we have a number of candidates. Anytime there's one of these days, I was asking one of my supervisors, so how do they go about, recruiting students or admitting students into the university? And one of the things he talked about was the SOP. He said sometimes even though we all have the transcripts or maybe the transcripts are there, we see maybe the courses they've taken, we've seen their GPAs, but with the SOP, we are able to tell better what the student interest lies in, because it will be based on your SOP or what you've written in the SOP that the admission team will have to decide on whether there is any faculty amongst them who will be able to help you with your research interest. That's why in the SOPs, we will get into that in the coming slides, but the SOP helps even the admission team decide for you which faculty member amongst us will be able to help you based on your interest. So it goes beyond the GPA, the test scores, and even the CV. It tells you your story, what you are interested in, what motivates you, and they will decide whether you are fit for their university or even for their program. And it also reflects your unique story, your motivation, and fit for the program. So just like I was saying, the SOP aligns your story, your motivation, and whether you are fit for the program. Because every program, we have faculties and their research interests. So if you are coming or if you are applying to a school and if you're writing your SOP, when they are deciding whether to admit you into the university, they are looking at which faculty here will be able to help. So if you're writing an SOP or if you're applying to a school and whatever you're writing, there's no faculty member who looks at the same research or a similar research, it means that you will not have any advisor to oversee your research. And that is why it is always important to do certain research, background research, before you start writing your SOP or before you apply to any institution at all, to find out whether there's a faculty here who does what I am interested in. So this is why SOP matters, and that is why we have to put a lot of effort in it. Anytime you want to apply to any graduate school or any university, your SOP actually matters because it plays a critical part in the decisions that will be taken by the admission team. So we are just moving on. I'll just quickly talk about statement of purpose versus personal statement. So sometimes we use this interchangeably, but there's a little bit of difference between them, and it matters. That's why always it is important to check the requirements when applying to any institution, because they always have lay down requirements when it comes to the essays you're supposed to write, whether you're supposed to write a personal statement or a statement of purpose. So this is just some key differences here. So usually the statement of purpose explains your academic and professional background, your research interest, and why you are a good fit for a program. Then the personal statement, the purpose usually focuses on personal journeys, your experiences and motivations behind your career choices. And mostly there are some schools that will tell you to write both of them. Sometimes you can write maybe 500 words, personal statement of 500 words, then you see that you have to also write a statement of purpose. So if you are asked this way, it means that you have to make sure that you're not repeating the same information that you wrote in the statement of purpose in the personal statement and vice versa. So when you are asked to write both of them, you just have to make sure there are distinctions. One is focusing on your academics and professional background, your research, more of research-based, what you want to do, the faculty you want to work with. And the other one, which is the personal statement, is more like your personal journey, some experiences that you've gone through, what motivated you, and any career choices. And also the tone. The statement of purpose is more formal, professional, and research-oriented. So more like what you're currently doing and how it fits a particular research in that institution. So the statement of purpose, when you are asked to write both, you just have to make sure the SOP is more research-based, more like, where am I going with this research? What background do I have in this research? And how would it fit in this program? Then the personal statement is more like storytelling in nature, very reflective about your personal life and how maybe sometimes when we are writing, as a first generation student, those ones are more for the personal statements. When you're asked to write both, you just focus on your background, maybe having lived in Ghana for 10 years, 15 years, having worked. Things like that is what you write in the personal statement when you're supposed to write both. But there are times too that the institution will tell you what to write, even though it will ask you to write an SOP or something. They will say academic goal statement or something, and sometimes they will give you what to include, and they can have your personal background. Maybe they can ask you to write a personal background, your journey. So with that one, it's more like they're asking you to fix a little bit of your personal life and your personal background into your academic interest and where it is taking you. So if you have those specifications, then you know that, okay, I'm not just focusing on just because I'm told that SOP is just research oriented. Even if they are asking me to do this, I just have to focus on but as long as they've aligned what you're supposed to have in the SOP, especially when they focus also on your personal journey, make sure you are starting with that. Then you connect it to your research and what you want to do in the future. So the content, let's go to the content. So the content of an SOP, like I said, it highlights your academic achievements, your research interests, your career goals, and your program fit. Then when it comes to the personal statement, it shares life experiences, obstacles you've overcome, and any personal motivations. So sometimes when we are writing when it comes to personal statement, that is where you can talk about the fact that you are the last born of 6. You have other 5 siblings, and because of that, you have to go and work in this company, and that's how you got this. It's more like personal based. Anything at all you did that has served as a motivation to you. It can be how you have to travel to somewhere. That is why it is personal statements. So those ones more of any obstacles, any life experience at all that you know that this is relevant for this. This is relevant and it can have an impact on the decision you're going to make, whether I'll be admitted, I'll be given a scholarship or anything like that. Make sure you include it in the personal statements. And also if it's an SOP and they tell you to add a personal background or your background, you can also add some of the information that you will use for the personal statement in the SOP. Now, when it comes to the structure, the SOP has a logical flow with a clear research focus and connection to the university. Then the personal statement has a narrative driven with an emphasis on character development and challenges faced. So in the SOP, what you are doing is, like I said, research focused, connection to the university. Then the personal statement, we are looking at the challenges and how that has built your character, and how that has made you very resilient. Any of those things is a way that you show, how that you've overcome certain challenges and how those challenges has made you very focused. Things like that. And the length, it varies, but typically SOP can have 1 to 2 pages, and sometimes the schools will specify whether you should have maybe 800 words of SOP or it should be 2 pages or less than 3 pages. And then the personal statement is usually 1 page. That one usually, if you're having the 2 of them, usually they will say 1 page of personal statements and also probably, 1 page of personal statements and 2 pages of, it varies. So depending on the requirement or what is laid down in the application requirements, that is what you're supposed to follow. Then I added something down here that normally the SOP is used for graduate school applications like master's, PhD. Then the personal statement is commonly required for scholarships, fellowships, and undergrad admissions. So, this is something that is often, but not like all the time. So, like I said, sometimes you can have both of them. It can even be a graduate application, and you can still be asked to write a personal statement. But that one, most of the time, with that, they will specify what to include in it. But most of the time, SOPs are used for graduate application. If you want to further your master's or if you want to further into your PhD, you usually be asked to write statement of purpose, because they want to see your research agility to make sure that you are really fit for the program. And shows how the SOP shows how your academic background and research goals align with the program. I've talked about that already. And the personal statement is more introspective, explaining how life experiences shaped your academic journey. So I give some example here. So for example, an SOP will have something like, my experience in XR technology research inspired me to explore human-centered design solutions for digital learning. Personal statement will say, as a first-generation college student, I faced challenges in accessing educational resources, which fueled my passion for educational equity or something. So you see that one is more focused on more of research, and other one is, even though it's focused on where you are going, but it has this more of a personal background, talking about a first-generation college student and how your challenges has fueled your passion for what you want to study. So, I mean, that is how they both go about. So that is just the differences between SOP and personal statement. So moving on, I'll just talk about common mistakes to avoid when you are writing an SOP. So for today, we are just focusing on SOP. I just brought in the personal statement so that we will know the difference between the two. So when you're writing SOP, there are certain things you're supposed to avoid. Especially, I always say that I always talk a lot with my advisors, and I always find out from them. I mean, and usually when we are writing, sometimes we wish we could say everything, but the truth is you can't say everything. It's just 2 pages. And sometimes they will even ask you to write 500 words of SOP. So it means that you are supposed to sit down and think about what is most important and what you're supposed to include in the SOP, because you can't write everything. I mean, we all have things we want to do. We all have where we are coming from, a lot of things that has led us to somewhere. So if we want to write everything in the SOP, I mean, it's going to be bulky, and who is going to read that? So that's why my first point, it says that being too vague or generic when you're writing an SOP, please don't be too vague. Don't be too vague or too generic. I mean, don't generalize. Let us see where your interest lies. So I have an example here. I have always loved technology. That is too generic. What is it about technology that you love? So if you say you have always loved technology, I mean, what about technology? I mean, there's a lot of things about technology. So what is it about technology that you love? I have always loved communication. So I'll use myself as an example. Since I'm a communication student. So if I say I've always loved communication, I mean, the question would be, what is it about communication do you love? I mean, so what should we do? So especially when you are starting the introduction part, you just have to make sure that whatever it is that you are writing, you are specifying your interest in a particular area, because there's a lot about technology. There's a lot about communication. Is it verbal communication? Is it intercultural communication, international communication? I mean, is it a critical part of communication? Is it a mediated communication? I mean, like, what about communication? So instead of being generic, so that, I mean, you are not expecting, don't expect the admission team to think for you about what actually interests you. You are supposed to tell them what interests you. That is why we are advised not to be too vague and too generic with whatever thing we want to say, especially when it comes to SOP. Because the key thing about SOP is we are looking at who fits our program. So if you are not able to specify that part of technology that you love, then it means that, sorry, I mean, well, maybe other things will come in place and then you will be chosen for the admission or something. But I'm saying that in order to avoid any, hey, sorry, we couldn't go on with your admissions or find another school, or, some of these emails like that, you just have to make sure that you are on point and you are being specific about what you really want to study and why you are choosing that university. So do not write and be generic or be vague. I mean, where we cannot tell where your interest lies. And also, the second mistake to avoid is not answering the why clearly. Why that question? Why this program? Why now? Why this university? That is one of the main things that you are supposed to look out for when you're writing an SOP. Make sure you are answering that question. So no matter how much you think you've written it, just go back again and check. Have I answered the why question? Why this program? Why this university? Because they want to see that you are fit for the program before you get admitted into the program. So not answering the why clearly will actually be detrimental to you. It could end up you not getting into the program because you couldn't answer the why question well. And 2, overloading with unnecessary details. Keep it precise, concise. I mean, keep it focused. Whatever thing you are talking about, make sure you are not overloading it with a lot of details. I was looking at an SOP recently, and it was, I mean, as I was reading, I was even tired because it was a whole lot. The person was saying a whole lot of things, and I work in my mother's market, and I was like, this is too much. This part is just too much. I don't even know what you're talking about. So whatever thing you want to talk about, if you want to say that you've worked in a particular company, go straight to the point and talk about what you did there, and not talk about how you woke up in the morning and how you had to go to the company. Just get straight to the point. So overloading it with unnecessary details sometimes make it hard, because remember, the admission team, they are looking, it's not just your SOP they are reading. They have they get like 400, I mean more than 300 applications. So if you are adding a lot of details like that, I mean, there's no time for them to go through all that. And that's why whatever you are writing, your introduction and everything is supposed to be on point, something catchy, something that will grab their attention, something that will keep them reading, something that will want them to want to know more about this particular student. So do not overload it with unnecessary details. Keep it relevant, keep it focused. 4, poor grammar and structure. This one, please, is one of the best things you can do. I always say, get somebody to go through for you. Proofread it a number of times, get feedback. I mean, there's no harm in reaching out to someone and say, oh, I'm done writing my SOP. Can you go through for me? There are a lot of tools now that can help you to check grammar. There's Quillboard. Just make sure your structures are right. Your grammar is right. Because however you punctuate, punctuation has a way of affecting the tone of a sentence. So if you want to use punctuations anyhow, just make sure that your grammar is on point, your structure is on point. You are not starting with just make sure there's a structure, there's a logical flow in whatever thing you're talking about. I'm not saying you can't start with something else, but just make sure there is a flow in whatever thing you are talking about. So poor grammar and structure is something that we need to avoid. Proofread and seek feedback. That's the best thing you can do, aside probably using some tools to go through. Just make sure that you've gotten somebody to also look at it for you. Cliches and overused phrases. Point 5. Avoid general statements like, I have always been passionate. I've always been passionate. We know, but just tell us more about yourself. Tell us more about why you want this program. We know you are passionate. That's why you're applying. But why should we admit you? I always say, why should the university admit you? Why should you be given the scholarship? Why should they admit you? That is where you are supposed to tell us why you stand out. And always say you are passionate about something doesn't get you what you're passionate about. But whatever thing you plan to put in place, whatever thing you plan to do, when people get to read it, they say, this person seems committed, this person seems to have a direction. A sort of direction that we think that this person fits into this program. But just saying, there are sometimes when you're reading an SOP, you can see repeated phrases, like a lot of times. They want saying how you are passionate about something, doesn't make the admission committee, take a pity on you or something. Just show, if you're passionate, show it in your writing, what you have done, what you intend to do. It's not about writing. I have always been passionate about communication. And then you read up to a point, you see it again. I have been so much passionate about communication. It doesn't get you that mission. So that is something we have to avoid. Overuse phrases. I mean, there are a lot of, even if you just go online, get tools. I mean, check and see that whatever you're writing, your grammar, your structure, your syntax, everything is on point. And avoid using some phrases a number of times. It makes the reading very boring. It's not like this person doesn't have anything more to tell us about himself or herself and why we should admit her, rather than just saying, I am so passionate about this, I'm very passionate about this. We know you are passionate, but tell us why we should admit you. Then the last thing about the mistakes is writing more than required and including sessions that you were not instructed to. I always say that sometimes after everything, because the truth is, whatever program you are applying to, the other people are applying to the same program. It could be that your GPA is good, everything is on point, and let's say there's a tie. We need to admit, let's say 20 students this particular semester or this particular year. Now we have 22, we have maybe 19 students. Now we need one student to add so that we have our numbers for the year. You could be in a tie with somebody. You have good grades. I mean, your CVs are on point. Everything is on point. Then what else will separate? What else could it be? So I always say that I don't want the fact that I didn't follow the instructions of the school to be a reason why I don't get admitted into my choice of program. So let's say you are told to write 500 words. Don't write 1,000 words because you think you have more to say. And that is what I'm talking about in the last point. And that is sometimes some of the things we do. I've read a lot of SOPs, and I know why I'm saying this, because sometimes I'll ask them, I will read the SOP and I know the school they're applying to, and I know that, and I'll be like, but this school's requirement says that it's supposed to have 800 words. But as I'm reviewing the SOPs, it's like 1,000 words. I was like, please just make sure that whatever words you are told to have it up to that maximum. Don't go beyond. If it's 500 words, make sure it is 500 words. It means that you know what you want to put in, know what to prioritize on whatever you want to put in the SOP. So writing more than required can be one of the ways. I mean, if it says, and also sometimes they will give you what to include. Some schools will tell you what to include in the SOP. So make sure, and when they give you that, it makes it much more easier. So just make sure you're following it. They will tell you maybe your background, some experiences. Sometimes they will ask you what the courses you've taken and why those courses fit into this. Sometimes they'll ask you to put in a lot of things. So when they ask you that, just make sure whatever you are writing follows that pattern. Don't do your own thing and say, oh, I think, they didn't ask for this, but I feel like this part needs to be there. I mean, if whatever they've required you to add, you have, and you feel like there's still more thing you want to add, but just make sure whatever thing you are adding, it's not going beyond the required number, the required words, or the required pages you've been asked to. So that is just something we are supposed to take note of, not doing what you're not supposed to, especially when it comes to the requirements. So moving on, let's look at the structure of a winning SOP. So this is the common, like the structure you are supposed to use, but sometimes based on what they will ask you to include, you can have another paragraph or any other thing. But basically, this is the structure of a winning SOP. So the first one is the introduction. I talk about capturing attention with a strong opening. So capturing attention with a strong opening, I would say introductions I mean, that is the best. That is the best you can use to sustain any professor or any person in that admission committee to keep reading on your SOP. Get them interested. Have an opening that is so grabbing. Like, why? Wow! It can even be a quote. It can be a research gap. You're talking about an SOP, so that's what I'm using. It can be anything. I mean, what interests you about what you want to do? It can be a research gap that you found. It can be a quote from. I mean, like, it should be grabbing. It should be something that will keep them on. Like, I want to know more about these students. So don't just write, "Oh, I am excited to." I mean, no. Introductions are introductions, and that is what keeps at the admission team or whoever will look at your application on. Just keep on. It's not like, I want to know more about this student. I want to know more about this student. So make sure that your introduction is strong, a strong opening. Now, the second paragraph or the second thing after the introduction, you want to talk about your background, and that will be your academic or professional background. What have you done? What relevant experiences or qualifications do you have? Have you used any research method? What research methods were they? Any qualifications at all? It could be an internship you did. Anything at all. It can be some courses you took. Background, your academic and professional background. So first is your introduction, then you move on to your academic and professional background. Then the third one is your research and career goals. Now that you've talked about the fact that, you've done research in African students' experiences, what do you seek to do now? What research do you plan to do in this graduate program? And where do you see yourself go? So your research interests and why they align with the program. What do you want to do now? I know you've done African student experiences, so I'm sure I know you've done it. But right now, what else do you want to do? What do you want to build on now? What methods do you want to use now? What research methods do you want to use? I mean, things like that. So the first part is your introduction. Second, your background and how the background fits into what you want to do now. So you see that it has a certain kind of flow. So you're not talking about things anyhow. You make sure that everything is in line. So your introduction, it has to be very catchy. It can be a quote, like I said, your academic background, and then you move on to why that fits into what you want to do now. Then the next thing is why this university and program. So specific faculty, which is very important. I always say, always make sure that you've researched about faculties. Then you can have, like, sometimes they will specify the number of faculties that you should mention that you want to work with. So it can be 2, it can be 3, sometimes it can be 1. So just make sure you've read about some of the faculty members, what they do, and how your research fits with what they are doing now. Some resources. So sometimes you can just research about the school. It can be a lab, maybe their studio, their technology showcase. I've read about this showcase and I can't wait to work with Professor so and so in looking at cutting-edge technologies that can help with international students integration. So just make sure that you know what you are talking about and you know the courses, resources, and specific faculties in the program that you want to work with. Then sometimes they can ask you for any other thing you want to add. Then the last thing is the conclusion. This is how the structure looks like. Your introduction, your academic and professional background, and how it fits into your current research or what you want to do and your career goals. Then why this university and program. Then you conclude a summary and a strong closing statement. That part can be your contribution. What are you willing to contribute to the university in the future? Or why should they admit you? So that is more like your strong pitch to the admission committee. So this is how the structure of an SOP is supposed to go. So key elements of a strong SOP. So these are some key elements that you are supposed to pay attention. These are key elements. And I've talked about them already, but I just wanted to stress some of them here again. Clarity and conciseness. I mean, avoid fluff. Just get to the point. Sometimes you're reading an SOP and it's like, what is this person saying? And if you are not able to clarify, or if there's no clarity in what you're writing, I mean, how would they determine what you want to actually do? And narrative and personalization. Tell a compelling story. I mean, it should be research focused but still personalized. I mean, when we say something should be personalized, it doesn't mean just talk about your experience. And I mean, I have to say things that will make it feel like it is me. That's not what we are saying. What do you want to do? Who are you? What is your interest? What is your research goals? I mean, those are the things we're talking about. So it should be a strong, compelling story, yet research focused, academic based. You've outlined. I mean, everything should just be on point. Then the next thing is research fit. Demonstrate how your interests align with faculty and the program strength. So when I was applying for my PhD, when I was working on applying for my PhD, there were some professors I called. Sometimes you are just sending emails to professors just to make sure that you have some connection with them, cold emails, so that when they see your SOP or they see your documents, your application, they will know, oh, I spoke to these students and all that. And there was one program that I was trying to fit there. Meanwhile, I know that this program there. So you see, so when I was speaking with the professor, it was like, it's more like the professor was actually telling me not to apply. Sort of. So a research fit. I mean, there are a lot of programs. Find a program that that this, whatever they are doing, whatever the faculties, because it is what the faculties are doing. If there is no faculty doing the kind of research you want to do, I mean, who is going to be an advisor? Because there are some faculties, every faculty have their methods they use and some interests they have when it comes to research. So faculty research fit is so important. Demonstrate how your interests align with a particular faculty or the program at large. So don't try to force yourself, because you know that you did. For example, the program I was doing everything I can to make sure that my SOP fits the program. Meanwhile, the thing I knew that this one I'm trying to fit in, I'm not fitting. You get the point? I wasn't fitting. I was trying to force myself to fit, but the thing wasn't fitting. So you can just imagine. So it was information sciences or something, and because I wanted to do something calm and stuff, but they do more of health information sciences. So I was just trying to connect my. I was like, no. So when I spoke with the faculty, then I actually now decided I'm not applying to that school again, because I was just trying to fit in. Meanwhile, my research background, I looked at all the faculties and I realized that none of them were doing anything intercultural like I am interested in, stuff like that. But I was still trying to fit in. So you can just imagine. So that's why it's important that your SOP is strong when it aligns to the interests of the faculty. And sometimes you can have multiple faculties and you see that they all have a touch of whatever thing that you are interested in. So if it happens like that, we have a strong chance being admitted to that program, because we have a number of faculty members who are interested in what you are also interested in. So future goals: connect past experiences with your aspirations. Connect past experiences with your aspirations. Okay, so I taught in an international school. How does that fit into what I want to do? Okay, you worked as a PR or something. Okay, you've used qualitative methods, quantitative methods. I mean, how does this past research experience or professional experiences fit into what you want to do or your aspirations? So just make sure there's connection. That's why you have to sit down and always just reflect on your own self in a way, what you've done and how that connects to what you want to do now. So your future goals, so connect your past experiences with your aspirations. And a strong closing: reinforce your passion and commitment. reinforce your passion and commitment. Let me check my time. Oh, so I just wanted us to look at this quickly. So this is just an example SOP, and I want all of us to just take a quick look at this. So these are the paragraphs that I just mentioned. The first paragraph, which is the introduction, your background, your research and career goals, the university fates, and I told you sometimes you can have one other extra paragraph based on what they require, then your conclusion. So let's look at these two. Let's look at the before one. It says that communication, I'm not going to read all, I'm just want us to note some things here. Communication is an important field because people need to talk to each other. Interesting. Since I was a child, I have been passionate about how people communicate. So now the question is, what about communication? Like, what is interesting about what you're saying? This is an introduction, and it needs to be catchy. It needs to be strong. So if you have this as an intro, there's a question there. That is why I want to pursue PhD in communication. I hope to learn a lot. What is it that you want to learn? I hope to learn a lot to grow as a researcher in this program. Now let's look at this one. In an increasingly globalized world, communication, culture, and technology intersect to shape our understanding of identity, equity, and integration. Communication, let's look at the other one. Communication is an important field. There's nothing interesting about communication that you are talking about. But with this one, it says something interesting. It says, in an increasingly globalized world, communication, culture, and technology intersect to shape our understanding of identity. So now, you get an idea about what this person is actually interested in. Please, I hope we are following. Then you went on to say, that is why I want to pursue PhD in communication. I hope to learn a lot and grow as a researcher in this program. So now let's take a look at this introduction too. It says that motivated by these insights. Which insights? The fact that communication, culture, and technology intersect to shape our understanding of identity. And this is the insight that this person is motivated by. Motivated by these insights, my academic and professional work showcases a commitment to exploring the complexities that surround intercultural integration, particularly for marginalized. So now we already know where this person is laying towards. We know that this person is interested in anything that has to do with integration or African students' experiences. But here in this introduction, we can't tell where this person's interest lies. And that is why the introduction is very important. And sometimes you have to ask yourself certain questions. Why am I interested in this program? Or why am I interested in this particular course? What interests you about the whole thing you want to do? So there should be something that interests you, and you can use that as your introduction. Then you talk about your background. During my undergraduate, so let's look at the before. It says, during my undergrad and master studies, I took many courses in communication and I learned about media technology. I have also worked in blah, 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 blah. Now this one says, thus far, my early research has centered on the complex dynamics of intercultural integration and identity negotiations using hybridity theory. So now the person is telling us their methods, some methods they've already used, some research they've already done. Then the next paragraph, they went in to talk about how that fits into what they want to do now. And this is how your SOP should go. There should be a logical flow. Like, that's why it's a story. You started somewhere and you are taking us through the journey. This is what interests me. This is the background I have. I have done qualitative research. I've done this and that before. Now, based on this research I have done, then we move to the third paragraph. This is what I want to do now in this program, if I'm admitted into the program. So here it says, in the future, I want to study how people communicate. Now let's look at this part. It says, while my early career research has centered on the intercultural negotiations and nuances that surround the integration of African students in higher education, I see multiple ways to deepen and expand my research through PhD at ASU. It says, first, I aim to explore. So now it has talked about the background and how the person wants to expand to deepen their exploration in that experience. So I already do African students' experiences. What do I want to explore more about African students' experiences in my PhD? So always there should be a background, something you've done, and how you want to expand that. Then you move on to the university and why you are a good fit for the university. So let's look at the fourth paragraph. It says, considering these research interests, I see various connection points between my scholarly interest and ASU's communication program. So you are aligning your interest to the program. It says the program's interdisciplinary approach to communication. And I went on to mention certain faculty members that are also doing something that you are interested in. And that is how you connect whatever you want to do to the program itself and the faculty members in the program. So this is how your SOP should go. So because of time, I'll just move on quickly. But then this is how it should go. Your introduction, talking about what insights you. The introduction can be a quote, it can be a question, it can be a research gap, it can be anything. I told you that just make sure it is strong. Then you move on to your background, whether a professional background or a research background. From there, your third paragraph, why that research background or why your background fits into what you want to do now. Then the fourth paragraph, you talk about why your interest fits the program and other faculty members. Then lastly is your conclusion, or if there is any other thing that you want to add that you know that will be relevant to your admission, you have to add it. So I added this here for us to practice. So these are just some guiding questions to each of the paragraphs. So it's already 53, so I think I will Samada, are you there, so that we know how to so this is just some guiding questions you can use to help you write each of the paragraphs. So I have some questions for each of the paragraphs that can help you to write that paragraph into details. So with the first paragraph, we have what personal, academic, or professional experiences inspired you to pursue this field. If you know that, you can start the introduction with that. Or what problem or question or research gap you are interested in addressing. That is also a way that you can start your introduction. Then in the background, what academic experiences have prepared you for graduate study, or what professional roles and internships, or anything at all that fits into the program you are applying to. Then so these are guiding questions that can help you to structure your SOP. So I think we will end here for this part. If you have any questions, you can bring them if you have any questions at all.
CLA 360, we actually built an online platform that helps African students fast track and streamline their college application. So if you're interested in applying to schools in the US and the UK, you can use our platform. But for today, I am going to show you how CLA 360 can help you fine-tune your SOP. So if you can see my screen on here, I have another SOP example for a student wanting to study information technology at MIT. I'm going to read through it as quick as possible. So we have introduction. The rapid evolution of technology have always fascinated me, from the transformative power of artificial intelligence to the endless possibility of cloud computing and cybersecurity. My passion My passion for information technology stemmed from a deep curiosity about how digital systems operate and how they can be leveraged to solve real-world problems. As I aspire to become an expert in this ever-evolving field, I'm eager to pursue. Guys, I beg you, please read through this yourself. So I'm going to take this. I just wanted you guys to have a clear idea of what this SOP is, so that when we put it into our AI tool on the platform, and then it's going to transform it or fine tune it for us. So I'm going to copy this and just put it into. So this is our platform, CLA 360. This is actually an application form that is opened. So on here, you actually fill in one application form and we send them to multiple schools for you. Based on the information you provide, we will be able to match you with schools that actually align with your goal, your values, and your career progress. So this is just an example of what the form actually looks like. So here you have personal statement, though it says personal statement here, but it could be SOP and all of that. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to paste our SOP here. And we'll click on AI rewrite. All right, so the AI I have rewritten already. So you click on show AI rewrite and you'll be able to see what it have generated for you. So you can see here, the first few sentences have already changed, since the rapid evolution of technology have been a constant source of integral and inspiration for me. The transformative power of artificial intelligence combined with vast potential. You guys, you can read through this, you can experiment. I have left the link in the chat. You can actually visit our platform, test it out, and just go by what Ms. Bridge just said. And you can experiment with the AI rewrite and see how best you can play around with it to fine tune your SOP.